let's introduce the panel. We're going to talk about Will My Creative Work, how to make every sponsorship dollar count. So I'll ask the panelists to come and join me, I guess in whatever order you're on the screen here, or you're not on the screen, that's okay. Why don't we start with AJ? If she's around, I'll put you on the spot. Global Chief Strategy Officer for Omnicom Production. Michael Nevsky, who's the Director of Global Insights from Visa. Nick Parnell, who's the Head of Sport for Edelman. And Michael Lehrer, who's the VP of Agency for Creator IQ. Yeah, keep it going for this incredible panel. So obviously a hot topic right now, sponsorships. We're hosting, I think, later tonight and tomorrow and the day after some World Cup watch parties. And I think maybe to start with you, Michael, I believe there's a lot of money being spent on these World Cup events. In fact, Ian from my team ran the stats and told me that just under $3 billion will be spent on the FIFA in total. I presume some large fraction of that is from your pocket. What are you guys getting for that? How's it work? How do you measure it?
Sure, absolutely. That's a very good question because we have this meaning of profitable consumer behavior. Can we influence that behavior indirectly? And major idea is definitely build that presence in terms of the feel, in terms of the touch, the attitude, perception for the brand, because definitely we don't sell anything direct to consumer, but same time we're in the business of facilitating payments. So that means we're helping our clients, our partners like issuers, banks around the globe, as well as merchants, retailers, and acquirers. And so what can we do? How can we influence consumer attitudes towards our brand, which in return supports our clients' business? And that's the major conundrum for us.
So you've got, I think, Ted Lasso, out there kind of championing the brand, right? I mean, how do you even take a decision about that? And then I'll throw it next to you guys, because I know, and then to AJ, you have a bit of a buddy act on this kind of strategy development. So why don't we start with you, Michael? Go to you guys, and then AJ, I'll think of a question.
Definitely, I started from Insight Point, and I'll move it to creative people and media people. So definitely you do the concept testing, you do the creative testing, and that's where Insight plays the big role in terms of the influential. And is it funny? Is it entertaining? Is it in the educational? And everybody at Visa loves the Ted Lasso commercials. Definitely, it's creating a big buzz, and consumers as well. Definitely creates that traction. But what is next, right? That's the biggest conundrum. With that said, definitely was a whole preparation for that in terms of kind of coming up with the idea testing and stuff. So, but with that now, we're going to see what kind of effect and efficiency, and we're going to talk about that later, it's going to bring and how we're going to measure it, right? But with that said, probably I will turn it over to you guys.
Yeah, we're sharing mics here. So I understand you guys collaborate on exactly this kind of sponsorship. Do you want to explain how that works and the roles that each of your firms play in it?
Yes, I mean, our firms collaborate. Yeah. This is the first time we've met. So it's not true collaboration in that way. For those that don't know Edelman, we're an earned first communications business, global business. And when we look at sport and sponsorship and are those dollars worth putting that money where they're likely to go, we really look at the story. The story is the most important part between the brand and the asset that you're sponsoring. Can we tell a genuine story that makes the fan experience, the player experience, the team experience, the show experience better? And we will challenge any sponsorship in that respect. And I think that's where we really involve testing is up front with consumers to really understand, is that collaboration between a brand and a sponsorship asset really going to work? Sponsorship is an incredibly crowded space, especially within the sports world. And, it's relatively archaic in terms of the way that those deals are done. I shouldn't say this too loudly because CAA are over there and they do a lot of that. But we will always challenge that piece, which is not a badging exercise anymore, right? It needs to go further than that. It needs to improve the experience that everybody is having through that. So when those dollars do go across to that asset, the experience is better. I won't hold the mic.
Yeah, here we go. So we come at it from a different angle. So I work for Creator IQ. We're an enterprise infrastructure for brands and agencies to scale their creator marketing programs on. We're focused on technology, and we work closely with Edelman on the creator side of the house. So a big sea change that we're seeing for the past 10 years with sponsorships, and I do have a traditional sponsorship role. I used to build sponsorships back in the day for MTV, ex-colleague over there. And so a big sea change is adding creators as a new element to the sponsorship. So you can do traditional packaging around sponsorships, logos, rights, hospitality, paid media. But what a lot of smart brands now are doing is adding creators to that and using creators not just to amplify the sponsorship, but also bringing in from the ground floor and using them to manage all and being a part of the program to really bring them in and as a content producers, right? So the brand is getting deeper content out of the sponsorship and out of the partnership. So with Edelman specifically, the Edelman team is using our platform and our solution set to find and vet creators for big programs they're doing around World Cup, Olympics, New York, even local events like New York City Marathon, and entertainment events like Coachella to find creators. And we have 11 years of data that we sit on that they're using to validate and pre-test their creator. We can do some unique things, which we can talk about later, but using AI and analysis of creators' content and comments to really understand if would this creator work for me, and then will it work for our clients? And then what Edelman's also doing is on the back end of that, through the end of the sponsorship, using that content as brand assets, right? So more than just brand-produced content, now you have creator-produced content that can live in perpetuity through the programs.
So I want to throw it to AJ now just to kind of zoom out the picture here a little bit, right? We're hearing a lot about storytelling. Oh, yeah, that's not, all the mics on this side now. And we're hearing a lot about, the role of brand. And, Michael's talking about the fact that they're not even actually, selling a direct product to a consumer. So what do you say to the kind of skeptical clients who say, well, how do I know that any of this is worth it? I know that you're a champion for adding measurability to the strategy around doing this kind of work in general, brand storytelling and sponsorships. What's the solution to kind of proving that there's value for businesses there?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think I would encourage brands to stay skeptical about it, to be honest. Sponsorship is a huge endeavor. It's an expensive endeavor. And I think particularly when we're looking at mass monocultural events, which we have vanishingly few of, like the World Cup or the Olympics, you have to be really intentional about what you're trying to achieve with a moment like that. I think, Nick, you said so well, you're trying to make a better experience for everybody. Now, when that comes to the World Cup, that's actually a better experience for lots of different people, right? There is no everybody when it comes to a big moment like that. So really being intentional about who you think you can create that impact with, how you can measure whether or not that will have the outcome you want, and importantly, recognize it may not be an everybody solution. It may well be a targeted solution within a big presence you're creating. And I love the example, that you gave about the New York Marathon. That's where I think sponsorship starts to get really interesting and crunchy in some of those smaller moments that you can round the experience out with. We know more than we've ever known before about our consumers and our audiences. So finding ways to use that within bigger and smaller moments, I think becomes really key. And the pre-testing we're able to do against those known audiences becomes very powerful in that convincing and persuasion as well, I think.
And do you think that that's leading more brands to understand the value and so therefore actually, do this kind of work? Or is the skepticism perhaps leading to an underinvestment in exactly the kind of work that these three folks were talking about?
Well, I'd like to think, I certainly can't speak for all brands. I'd like to think that it's leading to better, smarter investment in these moments. And Nick, again, you said not just a badging exercise. As we get more and more purpose-driven, purposeful around how we're showing up in these moments, I think the better, stronger, more ambitious brands are going to push us collectively as agency partners, media partners to really show how, not just where we're going to be, but how we're going to show up in those ways that takes advantage of the full ecosystem, the full experience, our creator presence, all of those different dimensions that we can pull within a single huge sponsorship moment that we're creating to know we're driving as much potential as possible. So I think smarter, better, maybe different, but hopefully not less.
Love that. So another theme you introduced there, AJ, was segmentation. Or did you want to touch on that first? Yeah, go ahead, Nicholas.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on that. I think and you mentioned it before about the traditional way of buying sponsorship is an asset package. One of the clients that we work with is Vaseline, which I don't know if you have that globally, but it's a petroleum jelly. And we did a partnership with them and the London Marathon, and we made them the nipple sponsor of the London Marathon. And that's not something
They tried to pitch us on that here at the Lions, but we.
Yeah, I think we should all. Yeah, I mean, walking up and down the Croisette, we should all probably have that. But that's not a traditional sponsorship deal, and it heavily was an influencer play. But brokering that deal with the London Marathon, you go understanding your audience really well. You're after what is a bespoke package, and you know that negotiation process means that you're probably getting a much better deal for what is a very unique opportunity. But it's also to that point I was making before, we were making as a panel, which is it's additive to those people running, but also the people watching engage with that in a different way because it's non-traditional. So I think you get better value, you get more eyeballs and more interest and understanding all in one go. And I think that's where brands really need to challenge the traditional sponsorship deals and the traditional sponsorship models up front. And you probably do get a better deal off the back of that.
So, Michael, do you have like slates of nipples? Sorry, other Michael Larry. But back to you in a second. Nipple creators and like, I mean, how niche is too niche? I'm going to drop the nipple theme right now, but
That's pretty niche. I'm not going to go there. Now,
but, to kind of touch on this idea that you've got to pick the right audience, you've got to pick the right segments, you've got to find creators that speak to them. If you take that to the extreme, some people talk about sort of individualization and micro-targeting. Presumably there's some, how far is too far in getting granular on segmenting and reaching an audience?
well, it kind of depends, but when I look at segmenting creators, the strategy I always look at is kind of three-pronged, right? You do geographic, you do audience-based, and you do interest-based, right? And it just depends on the overall strategy. So if you're doing something like F1, traditionally you can say, okay, we're going to look at luxury. We're going to look at creators who can have an audience it's like luxury and automotive and entrepreneurship and in those traditional channels. But you can probably go deeper and find creators who touch on, dads or auto enthusiasts, but not into luxury automotive. And there's different ways to sort of tackle that through creators. And if you look at something like New York City Marathon, obviously you can go at the running community and the sports community, but you can really go deeper and get like local and get folks into like travel and tourism. And there's different ways to segment those audiences. And it's all just based on what you're trying to do. But that's the beauty of working with creators, because versus buying one standard, you work with one media company, you're going to probably get one type of audience, but you can work with 20 different creators delivering 20 different audiences that can really impact the overall media mix you're trying to go after.
And I just love to, yeah. I just have to build on the how granular is too granular point, because I think we're all experiencing more data, more audience insight than we've ever had before. And one of the things I think it's often useful to think about is how can we deconstruct our audiences to the nth degree in a bid to then reconstruct them so they become usable again? Because I think if you take our audiences down as far as you can, you do get into these micro spaces that become very difficult to really activate in a meaningful way. But what's so often the next step of bringing them back together into usable themes or needs or universal needs, I think is where you start to get back to a place where they can be really, really useful to a brand again. And I think the F1 example is a great one. Just anecdotally, somebody who works in the space told me the other day that since Drive to Survive, they've seen an explosion in women fans of Formula One. But what they've also seen an explosion on is people who are fans of Formula One, but have never watched a race. Never on the TV, never in real life, which is a very exclusive experience. And that brings a whole nother element to what your sponsorship play might be. When you have all of these fans who don't actually experience the event, they're more just in the sphere of it, which becomes, I think, a really powerful way to think about audiences differently.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with both of you, but because I live in a world of data, and as you know, I'm going to pivot that a little bit, guys. One point, yes, hyper-personalization, what you ask, it's coming because of the agentic e-commerce. Us, our major competitor, we already announced that, but it's more about retailers and brands to adapt that. but same time, how granular you can go so it becomes usable, because you cannot run 100 million campaigns to tailor for each individual. So, and there's this conundrum here. Same time with agentic, we will be able, and media people will be able to get insights timely, pretty much online, because if in the future, imagine this, people use the agents, bots to acquire products and services. So we can learn much more about them to create that hyper personalization as well. So, but same time, in order to activate, if you're sponsoring events like that, you can again do the 100 activations, maybe digital, but not in the media, non-linear and stuff like that. So that's where it needs to be balanced. But again, data and companies and whatever, I call it KPI, not even ROI, right? So there is more and more demand, and especially my trade function within the brand world is changing, because demand is, if we're doing something, if you do this research or bring those insights, they need to be very actionable and measurable, right? Whatever it is, it could be, people say ROI, it could be KPI, maybe you're acquiring more customers or more impressions, whatever it is, right? So, and us as brands, and my function becomes that kind of a intelligence decision making. And agentic, I truly believe, is going to help us all to be more effective and more efficient in terms of the creative campaigns and measurement, and show to the board, show to the CEOs, C-suites, saying, Omnicom comes and say, hey, you spend $1 million with us, here's 1.2 mil return, or maybe you have wanted 100 customers, you got 200 customers. So the very clear, measurable results. And one of the examples, in my case, I'm going to finish with that to give you an example, guys. For that campaign measurement, what I'm doing, partnering with some suppliers to bring advertising logs for publishing site, it's close to you guys, to my transactional databases at a depersonalized basis. So pretty much individual account, but then it's depersonalized, aggregated. But if I run FIFA campaign, I will be able to see if any category spends on debit and credit will be affected by that campaign directly in my combined database, not individual issuer and stuff like that or retailer, but I will be able to see those. And that's where we're striving to go. That's the direction. That's the more and more demand on function from the C-suites, from the boards, show us the money in a sense, right? So that's kind of a combination of media, creative, and insights. So
I wanted to pick up, and maybe I'll just throw it to the whole panel on something, Michael, you just raised. You talked about the shift to the possibility of agentic purchases being made by consumers. That topic comes up a lot, and I think on panels, people sort of reference it a lot. I'm curious, because you guys are on the front lines of doing this work, is it really right now changing the way you think about marketing? And where do you assume that it ends up? And just the fact I want to kind of inject into the conversation is, if we rewound about 15 years ago, this would have been all about e-commerce coming. Now today, you take a brand like Coca-Cola, it's about 15% of all sales is online. So, I'm just curious where you guys see the future is of agentic purchases. We're excited about it. Is it changing the work?
I'm going to take it.
I'm happy to jump in. I think fundamentally, yes, agentic is changing how we see marketing, how we build strategies around the brands that we're working with, and importantly, how we work on a day-to-day basis with them. It's fundamentally changing our engagement model with clients because it allows us to do so much more. I mean, I'm less excited, and maybe I'm in the wrong or the right space to say this. I'm less excited about generative AI and much more excited about agentic. Our ability to use the data that is now available to us in new and different ways is transformational. So when I think about the way that you guys work with real people and real panels and start to use agentic on top of that, that coupled with what we're able to do with synthetic data and the kind of billions of data points that we're working with, it gets us to a level of strategic development that simply wouldn't have been possible. We reached that inflection point a few years ago when we had all of this data, but truthfully, I'm not sure anybody could really use it. We're now at a place we can use it, and we are using it, and it is, I think it's game-changing, transformation.
So can I try to say that back? It sounds like which I completely would agree with, that you're saying that it's changing our ability to do the marketing effectively, but we're not yet actually selling to an agent.
Oh, sorry, I see. I think we're priming the work
with that.
to get there for sure.
Yeah. Is that how you would see it as well?
So yeah, one thing, like we're not selling to the agent directly in a sense, although they're already we're not there yet. We're not there yet. So I'm excited like you that it's coming because it's gonna change the way how we think about marketing, the way how we think about insights and action. But same time, the influence, if you will, moves down the funnel, I guess, right? When you create that order as a human being, that's where you needs to be influenced, because once you dispatch that agent, right, there is an agent verification protocol, answer optimization, new term coined already, right? Because information about the product services needs to be clear, accessible by agents. They become like that little machine which goes in, selects the best offer, best quality, best price, whatever consumer dispatch them to do, and then they're going to come back to me. And think of it this way, probably people are going to have a multiple agents for health, for financial, for something else. So, but panel, back to your business. Think of it, if people do the proactive opt-in and say, okay, for whatever reason, I'm going to let you monitor or track my agents, so you know all of my omni-channel purchases, right? So it can put theoretically even Nielsen and IRI, my former employer, Circana, out of business, right? So, and I manage global panel for them. So stuff like that, because it becomes very immediate, and media will be able to understand it almost like hour by hour, change of attitude. It's like, you know, you're watching the video, right? And you see how audience reacts, and they might immediately change the placement, creative or something. So, but it's not there yet. I've done recent studies in North America, Canada, US. What do you think, how much consumers hypothetically willing to let the agent to spend on their behalf? What's the number? What do you think?
Oh, well, no, what's your guess? I would guess it'd be low single digits.
$20 max.
$20
So it's what, 19, 18 euros? So you see, the consumers, they're not there yet. So in that respect, so it's coming, but it's not there yet. Yeah.
I mean, I guess if you had to tell the story the other way and just contradict myself, you know, I used to work at McKinsey, and McKinsey famously had a study that said, you know, the global market for mobile phones, you know, with apologies to all my former colleagues who are throwing some great events here, you know, would be, I don't know, $10 million. You know, there's going to be a market of 10,000 of them globally. Now, they've now issued a report saying agentic is going to be like the biggest thing since sliced bread and create trillions of dollars. So I'm curious if, you know, they're overcorrecting one way or the other, and maybe try not to underestimate this time.
I mean, I just to jump, I think absolutely what we're going to start to see is two things happening concurrently. We're going to see comfort level go up. I'm not at all surprised. I'm actually surprised it's as much as $20 in some ways. But I think we're going to see comfort levels go way up, go much faster than we expected them to. And I think we're also going to see the kind of intrinsic behind the scenes agentic consideration happening that consumers are going to feel much more comfortable with as well. So then we're going to see two things happening, and I think they'll converge to a point where we are allowing agents to work in the way that human agents used to work, right? Travel agents, car salesmen, all of those things. I think we're absolutely getting towards that. So yeah, I think McKinsey might be right on this one, but what do I know?
And maybe we'll have sports matches between agents, and Visa can sponsor those.
Yeah, this conversation has taken a turn that I'm not that close to. I mean, look, the reality is, I think we are, whether it's a trend or whether it's just, I don't know what it is, but sport is becoming the last bastion of true live entertainment that only humans can really do. I think there are examples where chess is great and you can see that playing out, but sport and sports sponsorship is growing at an incredible rapid rate. And the reason is because it's where you can hold people's attention for the longest period of time for a moment that is live. And once that's gone and that thing's over, it's gone, right? And this is why, and I think this is why money is flowing into sport at a rate of knots previously unseen, because it is a channel where, and I think probably one of the only channels, you know, I can't think of another entertainment channel that is doing that in a way, and I don't see that ending.
So is it fair to say that as the machines can do more and more of our work, basically, as humans, we want to connect with each other. We want authentic experiences. And if we're selling things, our job's
Yeah.
to be part of those discussions and communities.
Completely, and I think it's post-COVID. You've seen if you look at the graph, it like literally goes, we were all locked away. People didn't have that human connection. They didn't get to play, and now all of a sudden everyone wants to play, and it's a great thing. And I think how brands interact with that is really important. They have to improve that experience, and I think going back to sponsorship and the conversation about leeching from sport, which many brands do. They badge, they go in and they go, I want a piece of that. I think has a really negative effect. And we can all do that as consumers. You all got to look at it and go, did I pay attention to that ad? Probably not, no. And I think it's a really good test for brands to see whether, and which is why testing, I think, is really important in that space, because when the value goes up, you've got to make sure that value is working for you in the way that you want it to. And it's, awareness and reach is irrelevant really, unless you get action off the back of it. Right. So that's really important. And yeah. So,
I think that's a great place. Maybe just do a final lightning round, because I think we're just on 2 minutes to go. I really love the theme of kind of not leeching off the events in the community spaces. So feel free to offer a quick thought on, how the role of marketers and the measurement of it can not only gain something for the brands, but also contribute something to these communities. Or if you don't like that question, whatever your conclusions are.
Well, I think the future of sponsorships is really predictive insights into audience and predictive intelligence going into it. And this is the future of what would make a great campaign, not from an audience perspective, but from a marketing perspective, right? So being able to understand who you're targeting and get predictive insights on that. And that's why working with creators is such a great place, because not only can you see everything and test everything, you can do everything from running analysis on content and comments for brand lift, for favorability, for sentiment, and then applying that. But you can also then build those micro audiences and test and validate that as you look to build out a bigger strategy. So I feel like this is one of the biggest things that you're going to see over and over again as we go on. And then with the AI discussion, you're going to see AI put on top of that, right? And become a deeper layer of understanding. So the ROI at the end of the day will really meet the needs of what the marketer is trying to get out of it due to all this intelligence we now have at our fingertips and all these unique channels of distribution.
I was just going to say to any brands out there, just don't be lazy. Like, do it better. Like, stop badging and like build a story and create a reason to exist within sport. Or, well, within sport, I'm talking about sport, but sponsorship, right? Okay, it could be anything. But just do a better job and, tell the story.
And I really like what Nikos just said before about the human interaction and connections. In spite of all this technology and agentic, but sponsorship definitely growing and is going to continue to have a place. Why? Because human connections, human interactions. Technology bots, they still not gonna replace that, and they cannot replicate that, because if you look at the synthetic data, very often there is a deviation when it comes to emotional and rational aspect of us as human beings, because they train on our answers, but they don't have that soul. So that's why a sponsorship overall here to stay, emotional and personal connections are here to stay regardless.
Yeah, I'd love it. Well, yeah, I mean, just to add to brilliant comments that I completely agree with. I think, Michael, I loved what you were saying and what you were intimating, that actually the brilliant thing about sponsorship and the difficult thing about sponsorship is that you get one go at it, right? The event happens, the moment happens. And that's why I think pre-testing is going to become so exciting. You have this one chance to create all of these different experiences. If you know your audiences, you know what you're trying to achieve, you can curate and create incredible experiences across the event itself, but you have to be sure, or as sure as you can be, they're going to work. So some combination of pre-testing, really deep audience understanding, really deep understanding of why the people love the thing that you are asking to be part of, I think is where we get to something really exciting and powerful, and why I think that cultural driver is going to become and continue to be so important for brands.
Well, I feel that was a real mic drop moment. Huge thank you, AJ, both Michaels and Nicholas, for a great conversation. Join us later to watch whichever of the matches is on tonight. I'm trying to figure it out. France and and Iraq tonight. All right. So and cheer on all your favorite sponsors. All right. Thanks again.